After Franklin G. passed away, I finally understood the truth. I had never been the one he truly loved. I was merely a substitute, a living reflection of his unforgettable first love. Yet for 40 years, he had pampered me like a cherished wife. I never cooked a single meal, never did housework, and knew almost nothing about the outside world. My own daughter once scolded me, calling me spoiled and saying I was as clueless as a pig. She told me I wasn't nearly as elegant or modern as the woman my husband truly admired, and one day she kicked me out of the house. Only after I left did I realize how helpless I truly was. I couldn't use ride-hailing apps, connect to Wi-Fi, or even find the payment code on my phone. Simple tasks that others took for granted were impossible for me. But slowly I began to learn. I downloaded apps, practiced yoga, started live streaming, learned to cook, and even danced in the square with a few older men. Life for the first time in decades was mine. Just when I was finally thriving, rebuilding myself piece by piece, Franklin came back, alive. He showed up at my doorstep with red, swollen eyes, accompanied by our daughter, begging me to return home. I looked at them stunned and said quietly, "Daughter, I'm sorry. After leaving the villa, I only have myself to rely on now. As for your father, he's been gone for years. The grass on his grave is over 2 meters high." After I left the villa that rainy night, I stood by the roadside, one hand clutching an umbrella, the other holding a suitcase. I had made up my mind to leave the city, but facing the traffic alone left me completely lost. I had never stepped out of the house by myself in the 40 years since I married Franklin at 20. But this time, whether I liked it or not, I had to go. The rain made taxis scarce. I tried to hail one, but none stopped. All were already occupied. A passerby noticed my struggle and said, "Madam, why don't you use a ride-hailing app? A driver will come right away." I didn't have the app, nor did I know how to use it. Embarrassed, I asked the young man to teach me. He looked skeptical but agreed, muttering, "You're about my mom's age. How can you not know this?" He patiently showed me how to do it. But then, his companion whispered something, and suddenly he stared at me in disbelief. "No way, is that really her?" He burst into laughter. I knew it. No normal person could be this clueless. "You're that pampered wife from the internet." I was shocked. He pulled up a short video. There I was, Franklin doting on me while our daughter complained beside us. See? I wasn't lying. My mom's 60 and can't even turn on the TV without my dad. I wanted to defend myself, but I stayed silent. In the age of the internet, isn't this exactly what people want to see? The video had tens of thousands of likes and endless comments, nearly all of them mocking me. One comment went viral. "This isn't a pampered wife, at her age, she's a pampered old lady." The phrase spread like wildfire, even becoming a meme in online communities. Back then, Franklin did care for me meticulously. Though he ran a company, he handed most of the work to others after we married. He rarely went to the office, preferring to stay by my side. He told me he fell in love with me at first sight, and deeper still the second time. I always thought his gaze held something distant, as if he were seeing someone else through me. But his affection and constant declarations of love made me doubt myself. After all, who could fake devotion for 40 years? Now I see the truth clearly. He liked my long, straight black hair, so I never dyed or cut it, not even when the gray started to show. I dyed it black every time. He insisted I eat carrots and tomatoes, dishes he cooked himself, though I hated them. I know now. Long black hair was her favorite. Carrots and tomatoes were her favorites. Even the stuffed animals filling our bedroom, they were all her preferences. I was a fool, blinded by what I thought was love. It wasn't until Franklin's funeral that I saw her, a woman who looked 70% like me. Or rather, I looked 70% like her. When she stood there, claiming Franklin as hers, I finally understood. And yet, even knowing the truth, even hearing her declare that I was just a replacement, I told myself it didn't matter. But now, when I think back, my chest still aches. Perhaps the heavens agreed with my decision to leave. I managed to get a ride to the high-speed rail station. I didn't know where to go, but I thought of a place with spring-like weather all year, Kunming. At the station, the line at the manned ticket window was long. I hesitated, unsure what to do. A staff member approached and said, "Madam, the line's long. If you're in a hurry, buy online. You can scan your ID at the gate. No need to pick up a ticket." Sounded convenient, but for me it was impossible. The instructions near the kiosk said to scan a QR code with WeChat, but I had no idea how to open the scanner. The staff member frowned, took my phone and bought the ticket for me. As he handed it back, a bystander muttered, "Old people who don't know how to use tech shouldn't come out and cause trouble. Let the young breathe." Another sneered, "Useless old woman. I'm talking about you." I hadn't eaten all day. My hypoglycemia kicked in. The world spun. I reached for candy, a habit Franklin had always taken care of. He used to put candies in my pocket every morning. After he was gone, I forgot. As I swayed, about to collapse, someone placed a candy in my mouth. A soft, gentle voice said, "Madam, I'm a doctor. You're having a hypoglycemic episode. Eat this first." When I woke up, I was sitting in the waiting room, my head resting against a young woman in her mid-20s. She was staring at her phone, eyes red, reading a message that said, "She's back." Followed by, "Let's break up." I didn't mean to look, but I saw. I knew exactly what it meant. She noticed I was awake, quickly turned off her screen, wiped her tears and smiled. "Madam, you're awake. How are you feeling?" I said I was better and thanked her. Everyone has their own story. Seeing she didn't want to talk, I said nothing. Her name was Sue April. We chatted, and I learned she was also going to Kunming. We were on the same train, sitting side by side. When she realized I didn't know how to use a smartphone, she was surprised, then patient. She taught me step by step. Watching her, I felt a deep emotion. I've lived 60 years, and not even my daughter ever taught me with such kindness. A stranger showed me more care than my own blood. As the journey stretched on, we opened up. To my surprise, our lives mirrored each other. The only difference: I discovered Franklin's first love after he died in old age. She, at just 18, had fallen deeply in love, only to learn 2 years later she was just a replacement. Two souls, separated by 40 years, found comfort in each other. Suddenly, April took my hand and said, "Madam, let's live together." My first instinct was to refuse. After Franklin died, I thought my life was nearly over. He was only 6 years older than me. If he couldn't escape old age and death, how could I? I didn't want to burden a young woman with my frailty. But she insisted. "Mom," she said, "from now on, I am your daughter." April was a doctor who had transferred to Kunming. She had a small house, not in the city center but peaceful, with a courtyard full of wild but thriving flowers. That very night we made a plan. She would work and I would open a flower shop. I'd sell in person and start live streaming, teaching flower arranging and selling bouquets online. Though Franklin had turned me into a pampered old lady, I had always loved flowers. For decades I studied arranging. I wasn't a master, but I was skilled. And with April's help, I believed I could learn live streaming, even if I failed at first. Thankfully, it wasn't as hard as I feared. Business was slow at first but steady. My craftsmanship and persistence paid off. Within a year and a half, I had tens of thousands of followers. Not rich but comfortable, able to buy what we wanted without worry. Then one day, someone walked into the flower shop, a familiar figure. First I thought I was imagining things. But as the old man's face came into focus, I knew it wasn't a dream. It was Franklin, the man who had supposedly died of a heart attack. My heart clenched, but I steadied myself. I kept my voice calm, almost casual. "Are you picking a bouquet for your wife? Is it her birthday or an anniversary? It wasn't Valentine's Day. It wasn't any holiday." He looked up stunned. His mouth opened. Then he stammered, "I'm just looking," and turned to leave. I watched him go. And I knew it was really him. The heart attack, the failed rescue, it was all a lie. Franklin hadn't died. He had faked his death. And he didn't just abandon me. He willingly walked away from the G family's fortune, worth hundreds of billions. All of it. For her. For that woman who had always held his heart. What I didn't expect was that after our chance meeting at the flower shop, I began seeing him more often. Not just glimpses but frequent, deliberate appearances near my home. Even if I couldn't see his face clearly, I knew that silhouette, the way he stood, the way he moved. After 40 years together, I could recognize him from 100 meters away. First I was curious. Then I grew tired of pretending not to notice. So the next time I saw him lingering nearby, watching from a distance, I decided to take the lead. I walked straight up to him as he glanced around nervously. "Mr. G," I said, calm and steady, "shouldn't you be with your wife? What are you doing here, at my little flower shop?" He froze. Franklin, who had always carried himself with such dignity and composure, looked completely shaken. Before he could respond, I added, "Don't tell me you're just passing by. I've seen you these past few days." This time he finally found his voice. "Anna, perhaps we should talk." I didn't really want to hear his excuses. I didn't care to relive the old story of his so-called great first love. But there was something in his eyes, something raw and unguarded, that made me wonder what version of the truth he would offer this time. So I nodded, gestured to a small bench nearby, and let him sit. As I continued arranging a bouquet of white lilies and eucalyptus, I listened. "I didn't want to deceive you," he began. "After all, we spent most of our lives together. Dying for you. It was the only way I could leave without destroying you. It was a painful farewell, but better than." I nearly laughed. I stopped myself though. Instead, I turned to him and said quietly, "Better than abandoning your wife and children in your 60s to chase an old flame, right?" He hesitated. "Franklin, sparing your feelings was just an excuse," I went on. "Your real goal was to keep your pride intact while finally being with the woman you truly loved." Paused, watching him. "Unfortunately, the world is both big and small. Running into me here. That wasn't part of your plan, was it?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. In that silence, I saw it all. The regret, the discomfort, the realization that his perfect escape had cracked. "Leave," I said. "I'll keep pretending you're dead. And you can keep pretending you never saw me." He didn't argue. He stood slowly, his steps unsteady as he walked away. I watched his back until he disappeared around the corner. In just a year and a half he had aged so much. Once, even at nearly 70, he looked like a man in his 50s. Strong, polished, full of life. Now, if someone said he was over 80, no one would doubt it. He had gotten what he wanted. He was with the woman he never forgot. So why did he look so broken? "Mom, who was that uncle just now? Why are you crying?" April's voice pulled me back. I touched the corner of my eye and realized tears had slipped out without me noticing. I hadn't even felt them fall. April saw the pain on my face and gently took my hand. "Mom, I know what happened," she said. "And I know why he's come back." It turned out she had noticed him long before I did. The old man who kept appearing near the shop, always watching, never entering. Out of concern for me, she had looked into it. And with her sharp mind and access to medical networks, she pieced together the truth. After moving to Kunming, Franklin and Amanda Shen had lived together, just as he'd dreamed. At first it was peaceful. Sunrise walks, quiet evenings, the illusion of a second chance. But reality soon caught up. Franklin, once a powerful CEO, was now a man with no identity, no pension, no purpose. He had given up everything. Meanwhile, Amanda was different. A widow, yes, but one who had planned well. She'd left half her estate to her children, kept the rest for herself. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. And she took care of herself. Slim, elegant, still turning heads. In the park, she was surrounded by admirers. Older men, younger men, men with pensions, men with charm. They danced with her, courted her, competed for her attention. And Franklin. He couldn't keep up. He had no money, no charm left, no energy. Worse, Amanda began to complain about his smell, his lack of romance, how old Wong next door was so much more thoughtful. Without emotional or material value, he became a burden. Eventually, she pushed him away. When April finished telling me all this, she looked at me with concern, as if afraid I might still have feelings for him. I smiled gently and squeezed her hand. I know what you're thinking, April. But don't worry. He doesn't regret faking his death. He doesn't regret losing me. He regrets giving up everything, and still not getting the happy ending he imagined. I shook my head. I won't go back. At my age, I understand love better than most young people. If it's gone, it's gone. I'd rather live with dignity than crawl back into a life that never truly belonged to me. Few days later, I went to the park. From a distance, I saw her, Amanda, surrounded by a circle of admirers. She wore a pink crop top that showed her midriff, a white cardigan draped over her shoulders, beige wide-leg pants with a high slit, and heels that clicked with every step. She danced with an older man, graceful, passionate, lifting her into the air, their eyes locked in a way that felt almost theatrical. People recorded them on their phones. Even I had to admit, she looked alive, vibrant, everything I wasn't. And Franklin. He stood at the edge of the crowd, stiff and silent. After the dance ended, he stepped forward, but before he could say anything, 3 other men rushed in, surrounding her. He was pushed aside, hands clenched, mouth tight. He wanted to stop them. But he had no right, no claim, no place. After that, he started showing up at my door more often. Not to talk, not to beg, just to help. When the flower deliveries came, he'd rush to carry the crates. When petals and leaves piled up from my arrangements, he'd quietly sweep them up. Once he even brought lunch, sweet and sour pork, my favorite. I looked at the container in his hand, then opened my own lunchbox. I don't eat that anymore, I said calmly. Too greasy. I've learned to cook for myself now. Healthier. Better for my body. He didn't say much. Just nodded and left. He kept coming. Not every day, but often enough. I never turned him away, but I never welcomed him in either. We existed in this quiet, unspoken space. 2 people who had shared a life, now living in parallel worlds. By the 3rd year, Franklin had hit rock bottom. Amanda had kicked him out. Penniless, homeless. He finally reached out to his daughter. But she refused to answer. My father is dead, she said publicly. He died 3 years ago. I attended his funeral. Desperate, Franklin contacted reporters, claiming he was the real Franklin G., former chairman of G Group. But no one believed him. Photos, videos, even the death certificate his daughter posted online, all pointed to a man who had already been mourned and buried. People called him an imposter, fraud, a sad old man chasing a life that no longer existed. He sank into depression. And I, the woman once mocked as a pampered old lady, suddenly became a symbol of quiet strength. When the story broke, netizens turned the tables. I was called the happiest woman on the internet. A survivor. Phoenix. I didn't plan it, but I didn't resist it either. I used the attention wisely. My flower shop's live streams exploded. Orders poured in from all over the country. Hired help. Expanded the shop. Turned it into something real, something lasting. I was so busy building my new life that I barely noticed when Franklin stopped coming. Until one day he returned, with his daughter. He looked different. No longer disheveled. Dressed in a custom-tailored suit, polished shoes. His hair neatly combed. He looked like the Franklin of old, the powerful, untouchable man I once knew. This time he didn't come alone. His daughter stood beside him, eyes red, voice trembling. Mom, please come home. It has changed. We all made mistakes. I looked at them. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just quiet clarity. Daughter, I said, I'm sorry. I only have the one behind me now. I paused, then added, as for your father, he's been dead for years. The grass on his grave is over 2 meters high. Franklin stared at me stunned. His voice cracked. Anna, I know I was wrong. What do I need to do for you to forgive me? His daughter's expression shifted. Mom, at your age, why are you still acting like this? Yes, Dad made a mistake, but he was just trying to fix the regrets of his youth. She took a breath. And honestly, if a woman can't keep her husband's heart for 40 years, isn't that on her too? I didn't hesitate. I stepped forward and slapped her, hard. Silence, I said. From the moment I walked out of that villa, we have no relationship. You want to blame me? Then tell me, when your husband brings home a mistress, will that be your fault too? She burst into tears, covering her face. Dad, look at her. How can she say such cruel things? I don't need a mother like this. She turned and ran. Franklin stood there, defeated. I looked at him one last time. You should go too, I said. No one with the name G is welcome here. Months passed after that final encounter. The flower shop thrived. What had once been a quiet little storefront now buzzed with life. Orders came in from across the country. My live streams, where I taught flower arranging with gentle humor and quiet wisdom, had gained a loyal following. Some called me Auntie Blossom. Others said I was living proof that it's never too late to bloom. Franklin never came back. I heard through the grapevine, through April's hospital network of all places, that he'd moved into a small rented room on the outskirts of the city. He lived off a modest pension his daughter eventually arranged, not as her father, but as a distant relative in need. Pride had cost him everything, even his name. One rainy afternoon, I received a package with no return address. Inside was an old photo album, wrapped in cloth. I opened it slowly, the scent of dust and memories rising from the pages. There we were, young, smiling, standing in front of our first home. Me in a simple dress, him in a suit too formal for the occasion. His hand resting protectively on my shoulder. Page after page. Our wedding, our daughter's first steps, holidays, birthdays, quiet moments on the balcony with tea. So much love captured in images. And yet now I could look at them without pain. Tucked in the back was a single note, written in his shaky handwriting. Asterisk, I thought I was chasing a dream. But I became a ghost. You were the only real thing I ever had. Forgive me, not because I deserve it, but because I hope you can finally be free of me. Asterisk. I held the note for a long time. Then I closed the album and placed it on the shelf, next to a framed photo of April and me, laughing in the garden, covered in flower petals. That evening I lit a small incense stick. Not for mourning but for closure. I said his name once. Franklin G. Then I whispered, rest now. I already have. The next morning I did something I'd never done before. I created a new live stream titled, Asterisk Love After 60. A Late Bloom. Asterisk I spoke not of betrayal, but of rebirth. Not of loss, but of self-discovery. Thousands tuned in. Messages poured in, women, men, young and old, sharing their own stories of starting over. And as the sun streamed through the shop window, illuminating a bouquet of peonies I'd just arranged, pink, full, unapologetically vibrant, I smiled. Because the truth is, I wasn't the woman who lost her husband to his first love. I was the woman who found herself after letting go. And my story, it didn't end with him. Finally began with me.